Hey, it's 7:07, and we're with Chuck Regalia. He's the Assistant City Manager of the City of Santa Rosa. Thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been great. Since we've launched the show, we've spoken to many people in city government, and in this particular group, it has really fascinated me because all of you are new, essentially. It's like we have an all new city management happening, and I want to know, just for the viewers out there, what is an assistant city manager, versus a mayor,
Well, a mayor is an elected official,
right,
who is elected by his peers on the city council or to be mayor.
Sort of parliamentary style.
Right.
Yeah.
In my case, I'm assistant city manager. I've been in that position a little over 2 years, but full-time in the city manager's office for about a year. And my job is planning and special projects. So we have a city manager, Sean McGlynn. We have a deputy city manager, Gloria Hurtado, who's the chief operating officer. Mm-hmm. And I'm in charge of special projects. And in Santa Rosa, special projects this past year, one of my major responsibilities has been the Roseland annexation. I'm the lead on that project. I am the lead on the Southeast Greenway project. I'm the lead on a project that's going to update our impact fees for development.
And these are all really great projects.
Yeah.
I mean, huge transformational projects for Santa Rosa, especially Roseland, and also the Southeast Greenway is fascinating too. I don't think a lot of people are aware of what that means. It's like having Central Park, basically.
Well, it's not every day that you have an opportunity like the Southeast Greenway. This is a 1.1 mile stretch of Caltrans right-of-way that Caltrans has decided to sell at some point.
Yeah, I mean, they basically we're building a freeway and then they stopped.
Yeah,
right.
Well, the freeway idea stopped 20 or 25 years ago in Santa Rosa, and that was because the people of Santa Rosa didn't want a freeway to go through Spring Lake. They didn't want a bridge over Spring Lake.
It would have just looked weird.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been a good thing. It wouldn't have been good at all.
Yeah.
But now we have this opportunity for our own version of Central Park. It's 57 acres. We have lots of things going on. And in fact, we're going to start probably in July, we're going to start a program to do general plan amendment, rezoning, and an environmental impact report. And the idea of that is to make acquisition or fundraising easier for this project. And all of our partners agreed with it, the council agreed with it, and we're ready to hire a consultant and get started on that.
That's really big stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be great for Santa Rosa. It's great for the environment, of course. But it's also interesting how it kind of puts a spotlight on how the process really works. You have to get consultants. You have to put things up for review. You can't just go ahead and do this. There's a process you have to respect.
Well, it's even more than that.
Okay.
I mean, there's the how you do things. You need a plan. And sometimes you need consultants for that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But what you need more than anything else is the community behind the project.
Right.
And one of the reasons that the Greenway is so successful is they have a group that's called the Greenway Campaign. They have been in business kind of for several years now, and they're very good at selling their idea. And now we have a partnership that's consisting of the City of Santa Rosa, the County Water Agency, County Regional Parks, the campaign, and the Sonoma Land Trust, who is taking on the responsibility for fundraising so we can acquire the property from Caltrans.
Oh, that's great.
And that's taken pretty much years to put this together. And just the mere fact that we're this far so quickly shows how popular and how successful this project
It's a lot of velocity, yeah.
Right.
And then the annexation of Roseland, that's also a huge endeavor. I don't think people understand that you're adding to the city. You're like, it's not just like you put a sign up and say, extend the city limits. It's a whole process. I mean,
right. Now, Roseland is an area of Santa Rosa that depends on who you talk to, but most people think it's already in Santa Rosa. Most people feel, if they know it's not part of Santa Rosa, they feel left out. Why isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's real important that we work to add this group of people to Santa Rosa.
Is it technically Sonoma County then, unincorporated county, or what is?
Yes.
What is Roseland right now?
Roseland is about 2 square miles. A little more than half is already in the city.
Okay.
And about a square mile with about 7,000 people are in Sonoma County.
So you've got this line that's disenfranchising people from the political process
Right.
of Santa Rosa arbitrarily.
Well,
even though the neighborhood's contiguous.
And you can't tell the difference, but when you drive down West Avenue, for instance, you can't
Right.
tell when you enter Santa Rosa and leave it. There's a sign, but
Right.
nothing's really changing.
So it's a pretty obvious choice to
Right,
just bring
right,
everyone in.
right.
And has there been any resistance from the neighborhood, or do they?
I haven't seen resistance from the Roseland neighborhood. There have been we were asked by the local agency formation commission to add 4 county islands that were near, and from some of those islands there have been resistance. The people that live there want to stay the same, and we've worked real hard to keep their zoning and general plan the same, but they still may oppose the annexation.
I mean, what would be the ultimate change anyway? Does Roseland really, once incorporated, does it really change anything?
It doesn't change anything. Well, the things that change, maybe
Okay.
I'll go this way. For the residents of Roseland, one of the major changes is that they change from having the sheriff and the highway patrol for their law enforcement, and instead they'll have the Santa Rosa Police Department
Right.
and community-oriented policing from that law enforcement agency. We all think that if it's annexed, there'll be one. We know there'll be one land use authority, which to everyone involved is really a good thing. You don't have to go to the city and the county.
Right. Yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
like
It's a good
it
thing,
should
and-
work. Yeah. So, spearheading these kind of projects, like it takes an enormous amount of energy. How do you keep it together and keep all of these things floating, these balls floating there as you try to accomplish this pretty like monumental change? Yeah.
Well, there's the reason that many of these projects are located in the city manager's office is because many of them have cross-departmental responsibility.
Right.
So I'm the lead, but there's people working on the Roseland project from planning and economic development, and other projects.
So you've got like staff resources.
On the Greenway,
Yeah.
there's 2 or 3 different departments. There's other county agencies that are working on it. But it takes somebody from the city manager's office with that perspective to pull it all together and to make it work.
and have the authority to do it. The problem with that, though, it rolls uphill sometimes.
There's no doubt about it.
Have you had to deal with that kind of problem, like managing the projects and then having blowback come back to you rather than the department?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
That's just the way things are, and we resolve those things. That is not a reason not to move forward, but it's something we have to do.
Yeah. What else are you working on? I know we covered the Greenway, we covered Roseland a little bit. You mentioned a third one that was a little more abstract to me.
We're doing an update of the city's impact fees. When
Right.
you build in Santa Rosa, you have to make improvements to streets and parks and that sort of thing, and every so often you have to update those fees.
And is this where like the public art fund comes from and that kind of thing?
It's not one we're updating, but yes,
Yeah,
it's
okay.
the same kind of fee.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, let's come back to that in a second. We're talking with Chuck Regalia. He's the Assistant City Manager of the City of Santa Rosa, and we'll be right back on 707. And we're back on 707 with Chuck Regalia. He's the Assistant City Manager of the City of Santa Rosa, and we were talking about all the things you do. But before we get too far along those lines, who are you? Where did you come from?
That's a great question.
We got to know.
Yeah. Well, I've been here a long time. I've had
Yeah.
a long career here in Santa Rosa, over 40 years. Most of my career in Santa Rosa has been in development and planning. I worked probably more than 30 years in what was formerly the Department of Community Development.
Right.
My educational background is I'm a Cal Poly Pomona graduate in urban planning and a graduate school graduate from Sonoma State at
Oh, right on.
mid-career. So I'm one of those.
That's great. Yeah, you did sort of a later career pivot kind
I
of thing?
did, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What drew you into urban planning back in the day?
I was interested in landscape architecture and design, and I've always been interested in cities. And I looked at it as an opportunity to use the skills that I have.
Yeah.
When as a young man, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life.
Where was this? Like Southern
Oh,
California?
I grew up in the East Bay,
Oh, really?
in Concord and Pleasant Hill.
Okay, yeah.
And I went to a local community college, and gave me some time to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I was fortunate to land in this because I've been at it for a long time now.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it's really been defining. Ultimately,
Right.
your career has taken the exact shape it should have.
Yes.
That's
I was
great.
I look back, and that's been a very, very opportunistic thing, and I'm glad it happened.
Yeah. And then, so when did you get to Santa Rosa?
I came to Santa Rosa in September of 1974.
Wow. Really
I-
pivotal time for the
Yeah.
county at the point. Yeah.
It was an interesting time because the city was about 65,000 then.
Right.
And one of the things about being in a job for a long time, sometimes people say, "Gee, you're kind of in the same thing all the time." Well, from that time, the city grew from 65,000 to what it is now at about 175,000.
Incredible.
So I probably had the experience of working in 2 or 3 different cities, although it was the same one all along. And fortunately for me, it became home, and I'm married here.
Yeah.
Have a daughter, and it's all of our homes. So
Yeah,
really
and
fortunate.
your life is here, which is amazing. That to me, it just blows my mind that you've seen that much change. Because I grew up in Santa Rosa for a bit in the 70s and returned from Oakland a few years ago, and this place has exploded. It is a major city now. you know.
Definitely is. Yeah.
What are the growing pains that you've seen?
Well, for years and years, it was traffic and too much growth, and then we went through a lot of ways to deal with that. We started making street improvements. We
Right.
taxed ourselves to do things like that. We have urban growth boundaries, all that, and frankly, all of those things are good. But if you look at some of our issues right now, a lot of that is leading to why we haven't built much housing in the last few
right.
years, why rents are going up quickly, why people are having a harder time living here or keeping their apartments, because a lot of it's because of the economy and the lasting results of the recession,
Right.
but a lot of it's due to things that we need to look back at right now and say, do we really need that? Or yes, we do, but we also really need housing in this community.
So you have the
all over
urban-
the county.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing how much we pay in rent, right?
Yeah.
You have the urban growth boundary, so we can't grow out. Can we grow up?
We definitely should, and in Santa Rosa is a perfect location for that because we have 2 smart stations. We're
Right.
probably just a few months away from seeing the trains on a regular basis.
Which is huge. Yeah.
We have an opportunity over the years to enhance those trains, and there's lots of opportunities in downtown and next to Coddingtown and in Roseland to see density growing, to see more units being offered. And there's really good, there's a great opportunity to, say, live on Sebastopol Road in an apartment that'll be built, walk to the train station and go to work.
Yeah.
Santa Rosa is also looking at improving bus service along Sebastopol Road to a closer headway of 15 minutes. So that's the kind of thing that's going to make housing in areas like that feasible.
So, okay, but that's one scenario. Another one would be, Pixar opens up here and they're drawing talent from all over the Bay Area that's now coming to Santa Rosa that wants to live here, and they're at a certain salary level where they want to buy luxury condominiums or, warehouses and cool stuff, lofts, et cetera.
Yeah.
And that drives all the rents up, right? Because there's demand and there's money for that can meet that demand. So then how do you vouchsafe,
Well, you're talking about gentrification.
Yes,
And
yes.
the problem that we have is we haven't got a Pixar and rents are growing up or are increasing significantly
Anyway, yeah.
because of a lack of supply in many
Right.
cases. So I'd like to have more of that problem. I mean Yesterday in the paper there was a nice article about a rental project in Windsor that's going to be built. Looks like it's going to be a great project, but rents of $2,000 and $3,000 a month, and the average rent around Santa Rosa is probably $1,700, $1,800, and
that's still a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like when we were all moving out of our houses for the first time. You can get a place for $500. You and 5 of your friends.
Yeah, you all have $100 a month, and you're
right.
living like a king. Yeah, you're right.
Those are the days. Yes. But I mean, I know this is one of your special projects. Focusing on rent control and housing for all and stuff like that. What are you guys working on now to sort of mitigate these issues?
Well, we have. I'm not sure if you know this or not, but for the past year, we've been doing lots of work with the city council on multiple study sessions to kind of educate ourselves about the issues. We had a study session on rent stabilization, is what it's actually called.
Fair enough.
And
right,
then we
right.
had lots of work. We hired a consultant, and then back on May 3rd, the council decided that it wanted to go ahead with a rent stabilization ordinance, and they adopted a rent moratorium on the 10th. So we're moving those things forward. They're challenging. I put out a list of frequently asked questions today, about 30 questions that came in, and of course, as soon as they hit, they're going to evolve into hundreds more. But it's really on people's minds for both perspectives, because
what if I'm a landlord? How do I feel
well,
about this?
Landlords have lots of questions. Most people really want to. They don't want to be in violation of any law that the government makes.
Yeah, but if I own real
but
estate,
it's hard to.
I want to make the most money I can on it.
and what we're hearing is that, at least at our hearings, there's lots of owners who are there and explaining how they're considering their increases and how they believe they're fair. We also hear from tenants who are looking at $300 a month more and more after that. So the council ended up with where we're going with this is one increase a year at 3%, and we'll see how that. We haven't done any of the work yet to model the staffing needed or to figure out what the costs are, but that's what's underway right now.
That'd be great. Wow. Hey, we're talking with Assistant City Manager Chuck Regalia. It's 7 to 7. We'll be right back. And we're back on 707. I have Assistant City Manager Chuck Regalia with me, and we're talking about rent stabilization, among other issues. So worst case scenario, we discussed there's not enough housing, gentrification occurs, and then we're facing issues of extending, perhaps sadly, all the way to homelessness, to who knows what, right? But you guys are actively working to allay those issues with rent stabilization and engaging everyone, landlords, tenants, in the process of.
Well, not only are we doing that, but we have a program I said that we're working on for the last year or so, and we're looking at kind of 3 phases to this. One is to address the issue for the most vulnerable. Now, to us, the most vulnerable are people without a home who are living outside.
Right.
And what we found is that even though the counts have shown that homelessness are down, they're more obvious. They're being asked to leave spots that maybe where the SMART train's going to run. And so we've been really active over the past year, increasing services, connecting social services with housing.
Now you guys work with, you have your own like in-house social services, so to speak, but there are agencies like the Living Room, for example.
And Catholic Charities and SAY, who provide services for the city under contracts. SAY has just recently opened the Dream Center, which has 53 units for young people the ages 18 to 24 who are in transition.
And it's a great center.
And it's a great program. Yeah. The other thing that we're doing, I think you can characterize rent stabilization as helping people stay in Santa Rosa. Or if you lose your job, you get homeless, and the idea behind many of our city council's action on this was to stabilize rents, figure out how to keep people here, and The third thing is to increase the supply of affordable housing and market rate housing, and that's our housing for all. And that's looking at trying to increase the supply of housing by over 5,000 over the time period to 2024.
So is that enough, though? I mean, I know that in the county, there's about 5,000 homeless people, at least that agencies have been able to track. Is 5,000 houses in Santa Rosa? I mean, that could certainly address the current problem, but wouldn't this be an ongoing thing as the city grows?
It definitely is an ongoing thing. What we were looking at was trying to, our housing element, which is our adopted policy for housing, says that we should try to construct 5,000 units over the 8-year period, which ends in 2024.
And these are units where you guys can control the rent?
No, this would be either affordable housing, workforce housing, or market rate housing. It's all that. What we're doing with this program is trying to make the market work better, or help the market to work.
I see.
Because when you're in a discussion about rent control, the people who want rent control say that the rents need to be stabilized because we're being priced out of our house. What the people who don't want rent control say is that there's a lack of supply.
Right.
And we need to build more housing, and they're both right. So what we're trying to do with our homelessness issues, our homelessness program, is to try to address the most vulnerable, the rent control or rent stabilization is to help people keep their homes. And in our Housing for All program, we're trying to find ways to increase the supply. And we're doing that by making the departments involved more efficient, making the processes better, and they've been working on this for about a year.
Well, let's say I'm a developer and I come in and say, hey, I want to drop $100 million on the city of Santa Rosa. I'm going to spend it here. I want to build up, and I'm going to have 150 units. Most of them are going to be for these alleged Pixar employees that are coming. Am I mandated then as a developer to provide discounted housing in that kind of complex?
Well, we're moving in that direction.
Okay, yeah.
Because if you brought in this project that needed 150, what our council wants to do is we want to find ways to give you an incentive to provide 15 or 20% of those units affordable to market rate. I mean, to lower than market rate, and by that, what we want to do is figure out ways to make it worth your while to do it.
So I'm a numbers guy, and I'm like, okay, I can take a dive on the rent for 15 to 20% of this capacity, but I need you to waive all my permits.
Well, it could be that there's a proposal that'll be considered on June 7th, or beginning to consider, where there may be some money set aside to waive some of those permits.
Yeah.
Other ways to look at it is maybe we could increase your density by 50%, give you more yield on the property, so the combination of the two would make this work for you.
What do you mean by that? Like I want to go 6 stories, you go, no, go 8.
Well, what's it going to take? That's what we would have the conversation with. So increase in density, reducing parking standards, making the process more efficient and quicker, because in the development process, time is money.
It's true, yeah.
And then looking to try some things and see what's going to work, what's going to be the most successful in providing these incentives for you as a developer to do a project that meets more of our needs.
And so, to me, that sounds great,
Yeah.
right? But somebody out there might think, I don't want a bunch of high rises in Santa Rosa. We're going to lose our downtown charm. I mean, how do you address issues like that? When you go for density, it is going to the skyline's going to change, right?
I think it definitely will. There's been policy in place for 10 or 15 years for at least 10-story buildings downtown.
And I don't think we go over 4 or 5 at this point.
Yeah, it's very,
right?
very.
Yeah.
There's a few that are taller than that, but if we're ever going to want to, if the Pixars of the world are going to come here, there has to be a more active downtown. We have to create jobs, or jobs have to be created for that kind of housing, and we have to provide housing for that kind of job. And my sense is that's the future of Santa Rosa. We have a station downtown. We have lots of lots of density that's potentially downtown. Same kind of thing is on Sebastopol Road. Same kind of thing near Coddingtown. There are growth areas that are connected by the train, and that's where we should be focusing housing development.
It's very fascinating to see where this is all going to go. I do think there's a lot of hope for Santa Rosa to really become the metro area that it's
Right.
meant to be. And I know that John Sawyer, the mayor, feels much the same way. Actually, he was on the show some time ago, but also talked about building up. And I guess it's time for us to be a real city. Is that time to grow up? Just
Well, the difference, I think, is for years and years, a lot of my career here, the type of development that was king here is single family, detached,
tract homes everywhere.
tract homes everywhere. And you've probably read lots of information that the
I used to live in one.
millennials and no, it's very desirable. People like it, but there needs to be options. There's a lot of us getting older who may want a smaller place closer to things or closer to the train. There's millennials that aren't ready for the track house yet,
Right.
and we need to provide options, and we need to provide options for people that it's the smaller places, it's the less expensive places that we can allow people to stay here,
I know,
but have an option.
I'm looking for the hipster art loft. Where
Yeah.
is that going to be? So. All right. Well, hey, it's been great talking with you. I've got Assistant City Manager Chuck Regalia here. We're talking about all kinds of juicy issues. You got to come back, and we'll pick this up. Thanks for coming in, man. I appreciate
All right.
it. Yeah.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.